All right, everybody. We're checking in again on our favorite annoying Rantsona Nazi. So, back in the day, there was a YouTuber who was a pretty substantial part of what was growing and being dubbed the intellectual dark web. Very cringy name, I know. They are just as cringy as the name suggests. This consisted of, like, basically the anti-SJW skeptic sphere. People who were known for being part of a community that started out as atheist YouTube. You gotta remember, the anti-SJW skeptic community and most of the YouTubers in it started out as atheist YouTubers debunking Christian propaganda. But then, they made a hard pivot towards debunking SJWs because they claimed that the SJWs were the new Christian fundamentalists, right? And so it was more popular to dunk on them now. And they were very open about this, that, like, they were dunking on the Christian crazies because they were the crazy ones at the time, and that was what was popular to dunk on. And now it's popular to dunk on the lefties, and it has nothing to do with their political leanings being super left-wing or super right-wing. They're just making fun of the people being the most crazy, would be their defense against any perceived bias in their content, which was not really perceived but obvious, but they claimed it was just a perceived bias. That said, one of those people went by the name of Computing Forever. He started out with his, like, ginger Rantsona with the big forehead, always doing, like, some sort of thinking pose. He started out mostly just doing culture rant videos and dunking on SJWs and feminists and stuff. Very basic stuff. But towards the end and the fall of the anti-SJW sphere and the intellectual dark web community, he went mask-off Nazi. He started talking about the Great Replacement and the Jewish question, and he just really went fully mask-off. And after that, Computing Forever decided that, you know, he started to fall off really hard. His views started to drop, so he rebranded. I don't know if he made a new channel or just renamed his old one, but he now goes by the Dave Cullen Show. But do not be mistaken, his old persona was the Nazi YouTuber Computing Forever. He's recently put out a video 6 days ago called The End of Captain Marvel. That's right, it's not very long, but in 2023, we are still getting chud, like, grift videos shitting on Captain Marvel. So this is from Bounding Into Comics, which is a, like, right-wing reactionary site. It's basically like, if you remember the Some Angry Gamers site, which would be about, like, this video game has an interracial couple in it. This is corrupting our culture, and then they go off about the Jewish question and the Great Replacement. The Bounding Into Comics is a bit like that, but a little less radical on the face. Like, they basically do quartering style stuff. I think the quartering might actually be part of it. Who uses the term bounding anymore? It's just meant to be like a very, like, the term Bounding Into Comics isn't supposed to give off any right-wing slant to the website. It's supposed to give off to, like, an impression to nerd comic people that this is just a comics news site that can sort of, you know, more subtly give them the politics propaganda on the side, you know? Bounding is very much a superhero-y, nerdy kind of word to use, right? So they just kind of, you know, found a title that would look appealing to the type of people they're trying to attract.
This article is from Bounding Into Comics. Brie Larson reportedly grew disillusioned with Captain Marvel role, doesn't want to play the part anymore. As reported by the Direct, author Joanna Robinson claims that Larson grew disillusioned with the role in her book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. Specifically, Robinson wrote, "The future of those Marvel icons was unclear. The departure of franchise anchors like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson, as had the shocking loss of Chadwick Boseman. But other MCU stalwarts were heading for the exits. The Guardians of the Galaxy cast went on a farewell tour, Brie Larson grew disillusioned, and Marvel tussled with Sony in a custody battle over Tom Holland. During an appearance..."
We're talking about drama that happened years ago? Wait, why are we talking about something that happened before Spider-Man No Way Home came out? Like, that kind of dated it pretty hard, like, what she's talking about here when she became disillusioned. By the way, there's a new Marvel, like, Captain Marvel movie coming out soon. It's not like she's quit or whatever. Like, there's more stuff. She's not like left unless it's not been announced yet. Like the thing she's talking about here with the whole like Sony Spider-Man like fiasco happened in the production of Spider-Man No Way Home. The one with like where they brought like the classic Spider-Man stuff back. That was literally years ago. Like years ago. That movie was in production. Like we're talking like Trump was president.
On the Watch podcast, Robinson...
Like I don't really care. I'm not really super into Captain Marvel. Not my favorite part of the MCU, to be honest, but I just kind of find it interesting how desperately to this day these people are to like try to glean any type of W out of like owning Brie Larson. It's really bizarre. Like I don't know why she's their target. I guess it's because she's vaguely feminist in some of her messaging, but she's not even really that much. I think a lot of it's like horniness. I think the Quartering's already like made it very clear that he is like sexually into Brie Larson and finds her attractive. So I think a lot of it is an unironic hate boner. I know we use that term like sort of irreverently a lot and as a joke, but I'm like a hate boner is a real thing. And I think they have an unironic hate boner for Brie Larson. Like they hate her, but they're horny for her, and it's very confusing for them.
Added, I don't know if Brie Larson was the wrong person for the role necessarily, but the toxic backlash means that Brie Larson doesn't want to play Carol Danvers anymore, she added. That's sort of what she said. She was interviewed in D23, and they're like, so we're going to see a bunch more from Carol Danvers. She's like, I don't know. Does anyone want to see me play Carol Danvers? Doesn't seem like it.
Wait, holy shit. Yeah, this is dated as fuck. This is literally something that I remember covering the Quartering's coverage of this quote back in 2019, 2020. He's like, this is a 6-day-old video, and he's talking about a quote that is literally like 3 or 4 years old at this point. About her talking about like how she felt discouraged getting harassed by the internet for playing Captain Marvel. For those that don't know, the actress who played Abby in The Last of Us 2 still receives death threats to this day. People on the right online have a tendency to send death threats and attack the actors and like the talent that actually play the characters that they take issue with. The same thing, it's not even just a woman thing. The actor who plays Joffrey, or played Joffrey in Game of Thrones, was inundated with death threats and harassment because of the character he played in a show. Because people literally couldn't separate reality from the TV show and sent death threats to the actor who killed off their favorite character in the show. Like, what? The actor was just playing the character. How mentally... That is the level of mental illness we're dealing with here. The people who send death threats and hate Brie Larson are the same types of people who sent the guy who played Joffrey in Game of Thrones death threats because Joffrey killed their favorite character in the show. Like, we are into serious levels of mental illness.
Now, that interview in particular is from way back, posted on Variety's Twitter on September 10th, 2022. But what's interesting about this story is what's written next, specifically about the original plan for Chadwick Boseman, Tom Holland, and Brie Larson to be the new primary leads of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, following the retirement of the original core Avengers cast members, Robert Downey.
Okay, for one, the Sony thing's dealt with. Chadwick Boseman dying, I guess if you want to use that as like an epic own on Disney, you can. Like, I know that right-wingers are like pure evil, and so they like to take joy in those things. Oh, do you want to see what this guy looks like in real life, by the way? He presents himself, interestingly. Very squared jaw and head with his character. This is him in real life. And here's his rant Sona. You're really, I don't know, man. I don't know. You're doing, let's go back to that. I don't know, man. That jaw, though. Ooh, no. You're not fooling anybody, man. You're not. I like how he gives himself that little, like, hair peak there, but he's literally bald in real life. He doesn't have any of that. That's not there. It's not a thing. I love the Rant Sona era, though. This guy has been, like, desperately clawing his way, like, month by month alive on YouTube, keeping up the old school, like, anti-SJW Rant Sona thing, where, like, one of his, like, favorite ones to use is him doing this pose. And then he's got one where he's, like exacerbated with the SJW nonsense, where he's like he's got his fingers in his temples and he looks like Cross. And then he's also got another one where it's him and his Rant Sona is naked and he's the thinker. I'm not even joking. He's got a version of his Rant Sona that's naked as the thinker statue that he uses sometimes. Very lacking in self-awareness, I know.
Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans. Robinson went on to detail that Larson wanting to leave the role of Captain Marvel was not the case during the filming of Avengers Endgame. She said, Chadwick Boseman told me the story about on the set of Endgame, he and Brie Larson and Tom Holland sat around and talked about how they were the future of Marvel and how exciting that was for them. And when you look at the breakdown between the Sony Marvel deal over Spider-Man, when you look at Chad Boseman passing away, and you look at Brie Larson either not being a great fit or just, being damaged by toxic fandom, whatever that means, then that plan that they put into play, they felt like they were creating another A-team. Robinson added, there's so many factors that came into play that sort of knocked their plan out under them. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously no one could have foreseen the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman. And then the whole controversy over Tom Holland's Spider-Man regarding Disney and Sony, that was a big mess. Now, as for this claim...
Well, how is it a big mess? Sony, has the rights to keep making Spider-Man stuff. What? Wait, how is that a miss? This is literally multiple-year-old drama from pre-No Way Home coming out. I remember following Marvel when this was a thing. That happened and is over, and Marvel has retained the rights to keep doing Spider-Man stuff. Okay. I think, in the trade-off, Sony got Vulture. How's Sony doing in that whole thing? The trade-off that we got from that whole fiasco was Sony got Morbius. Sony was able to make Morbius and get Vulture for that after-credits scene. Marvel was able to make Spider-Man No Way Home. This guy wants to convince you that Marvel lost in that because, Marvel is owned by Disney, and Disney is, evil and woke.
Claim of toxic fandom. There was a section of the fan base who I believe were understandably upset with some statements that Brie Larson made prior to Captain Marvel. In particular, some things she said at a speech that she gave in 2018, and I've covered that in a video I made.
Oh, cool. So yeah, this is actually the origin of the anti-Brie Larson hate. So I'll give you the background to it because I actually remember it because I've had to talk about it so many times with these people. Basically, she was at an awards show and she'd done a movie called, I forget what it was called. It was called A Wrinkle in Time, I think. And the movie was I guess directed not for I guess it was directed at young girls and not young white girls, but young girls of color. And the movie got panned by the right-wing anti-SJW crowd because the fact that it was woke or whatever. But it still did well, and she was in an award show about it, and they'd asked her to speak on that issue on the reaction to the movie online. And so she said, if you're one of the middle-aged white dudes online screeching about this movie not being perfect for you, then it's not for you. That's fine. The movie just wasn't made for you. And so they took that quote and decided to run with that as her saying that the movies and media she makes aren't for real nerds. Because remember, they took aren't for middle-aged white men as meaning not for real nerds. Because that's what they mean what they think of when they think of a real nerd, I guess. Anyway. Oh, I love this guy's grift, too. I recognize this screenshot. The right got one of my favorite, attempts at a dunk on the Rings of Power show, the Lord of the Rings show, was that in one of the scenes where you see a crowd, because the show was filmed in COVID, they used like digital whatever to basically copy certain people in the crowd. And if you look closely, you can notice that like in the background, some of the people are the same people in the crowd. Like it's the same person. Like in a video game, we're using assets, which I'd say is a pretty useful and effective way to save money and potentially lives with a pandemic happening, especially if you can't notice it unless someone pauses it and shows it to you. And so the right took that frame and tried to use it as like you could see, I guess, like his thumbnail and what like the thing is about. They were really desperate to hate on that show. I enjoyed it, and I will stand by my enjoyment of Rings of Power for quite a while. And it also performed really well. As much as these people try to convince you that's not the case, Rings of Power performed really well and was pretty high rated. Season 2 is already confirmed and is in production, and Season 3 is pretty much guaranteed. So I'm going to get more of that show to watch. I loved watching them flip-flop on Rings of Power. It wasn't Rings of Power they flip-flopped on, it was House of the Dragon. They shit-talked House of the Dragon for months and months and months up until it came out. Didn't Rings of Power have that soap opera intro? Alec Gunter, I love you. I hate you, but I also love you, because you're wrong, but the fact that you're wrong about this allows me to make a point by correcting you, okay? So I also love you. That is a good point. That soap opera intro you're talking about was literally a psyop, Alec Gunter. You fell for it. You fell for the hate train for the show. Do you want to see what the actual Rings of Power intro looks like? This is the actual opening theme. What you saw was a Twitter post passed around by right-wingers that was actually just a promotional ad by I think it was Entertainment Weekly. It was literally just a panning black void with the characters for an Entertainment Weekly ad that was shared around with the Entertainment Weekly bit cut out, saying that it was the intro for the show to make it look like it had some cheesy soap opera intro. This is the actual intro, and yes, it is done completely practically. But yes, one of the right-wing lies pushed around about this show by right-wing grifters like the guy we're covering is that this wasn't the intro, but that it was this Entertainment Weekly promotional thing that looked, if it was the intro, would look very cheesy and bad. Nope, all CGI. Nope, this was made practically. Particularly, not this bit, not the the dust bit, but the bit you're about to see in a minute. You'll see. This bit, yeah. From here on out, it's practical. The bit there was CGI, but this bit is all practical. They use those sound vibrating things. Yeah, this might be CG. This is real. This bit's probably CG, but you can tell which dust is real and which is not if you look really close. It's a really good show. It's also composed by Bear McCreary, the guy who did the soundtrack for God of War and God of War Ragnarok. And if you played those games and heard the music, you know. You know. Why the fuck was there a fake intro? There wasn't a fake intro, Alec Gunter. I'm telling you that you fell for the hate brigade the show got. The right-wingers pushed hate for that show so hard that, you were convinced that it wasn't right-wingers doing it. People were sharing around fake shit. There was, one of my favorites was, the claim that there would be sex scenes in it. One of the biggest claims that passed around about the show, because it was on Amazon, that was, shit-talking the show, was that it was going to be like they were going to try to make it like Game of Thrones and fill it with gratuitous nudity and sex scenes, which is, of course, very un-Tolkien. Not even close. Not even close. So far from even close. Not even close. It was just a straight-up lie. They just made it up. They just made it up. Most of the hate that you've probably got for the show, or most of the negative opinions you've got on the show, or things you've seen, are probably literally just lies you heard. Hold on, now I'm confused. Was the intro I saw legit or not? No. The thing you saw was an Entertainment Weekly promotional ad with a black void with the characters standing in it and the camera panning past them. It was promotional material for a magazine to post on their Twitter account. Twitter users took that, cut the Entertainment Weekly logo out of it, posted it captioned, "This is the shitty, corny intro for the shitty Amazon Lord of the Rings show that we've all decided to hate before it came out." And you saw that, and you fell for it. But yes, I'm not faulting you for it. I'm saying, holy f***, look how effective that the grift is, that people in my chat fell for it. I ask that you give the Lord of the Rings show a shot if you've got an Amazon Prime subscription. Give it a watch if it interests you. Don't fall for the hate brigade online and make your own opinion on it. That's what I ask you do. Watch it and make your own opinion. If you watch it and you don't like it, I disagree with your opinion, but I respect that you actually watched it. Many others can't say the same, such as this guy.
Back then. The link to that video is in the description box below if you want to check it out. The statements she made were not popular with some people, and they turned some people off. That's just the reality. Added to that, the sort of Mary Sue...
I like how he won't even, say what she said because it's such a nothing burger that this entire hate for Brie Larson was always built on, that if they actually state what the original thing they took issue with was, the hundreds of videos these people have made on her look insane. Insane. The fact that all she did was say, the movie wasn't for you if you didn't like it. The amount of videos that single content creators have made in the hundreds is downright insane. We're almost finished with this, by the way, Soaked In Left. I don't want to keep you up too late.
Quality of the character of Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel. And suffice to say, there wasn't as much interest in Captain Marvel, the character, as there was for some of the others. And in addition, this is perhaps something we don't talk about all that often, but I think there was no need to introduce Captain Marvel before Endgame. So clearly there was a mandate to squeeze the character into Endgame. Hence,
what? No? Why does every single pose of his avatar have a raised eyebrow? It's to make him look smart. It's what all the, back in the day, all the Rant Sona, anti-SJW channels did to, make their Rant Sona look smart. They were never brave enough to show their faces, but they had, different poses for their Rant Sona to make them look cool. Another YouTuber that I would watch back in the day that did content like this was Rags. And he has a furry avatar, because he's, an unironic, actual gay furry. And admittedly so. But he's also, a right-winger anti-SJW. He used to do really good, PC Master Race content. This is a good example of, he's not still alive. No, he doesn't still make content. This is an older video. This is from, 2019 when, some channel that's, big did a video about how, some, stereotype, or some of the things that he didn't really die. His channel's dead. Some of the stereotypes you see commonly repeated in fantasy media to represent certain races, such as goblins, orcs, etc., very clearly pull from problematic stereotypes that inspired them about real groups of people. And there's very clear historical context you can draw the inspiration from that is not arguable, and that there might be some social value in acknowledging those representations being made in fantasy media, especially when those representations are showed in races that are depicted as being pure evil. If you've got a goblin race that, let's just say happens to meet it checks a lot of the boxes, checks a lot of the boxes, and in your fantasy setting, those goblins are pure evil, irredeemable evil, and they're also, they check those boxes, that's maybe worth talking about. But these right-wingers try to frame any lefty discussion around that topic as the left trying to compare minority groups to those, fantasy races. It's common that you'll see a meme where it's, a soy jack lefty saying to, a black person, "See this orc? This is you! We're arguing that you're just like them." And that's, the framing of, the left's conversations about where some of these representations might have been inspired from. But then on the other hand, you do get people who are the more insane side of it, where they think that any representation of a race in media as being pure evil is bad. And I think there's discussion worth having about it, but I also think it's You're being a little too... You're getting too up someone's asshole. Wait, hang on. Xanderhal, was Rags friends with JXC? Yeah, I think JXC is friends with lots of, like, right-wing grifter types, though. Like, it's just the nature of being a big mainstream YouTuber. But yeah, this will give you, like, a little bit of an insight into what, like, the Rant Sona era was like. This is peak Rant Sona. This is his Rant Sona. It's a dog. He's a furry. And yes, he unironically accepts and receives porn of his Rant Sona, which is literally a dog in sunglasses. It's just a dog. Like, he's, like, arguably bordering on zoophile. Yeah, so that's, whew. Anyway, here's his Rant Sona.
Also, her legs make a swastika. Extra credits, no.
You might have noticed a reoccurring argument about some species from fantasy media, specifically orcs.
Oh yeah, I remember that. A bunch of totally not racist progressive types on the internet all of a sudden started deciding that, you know what? Orcs are kind of like black people. Orcs shouldn't be like black people, all violent and barbaric and evil. Now, all of us normal people heard that, and we just about lost our minds because this was one of the most low-key racist and ridiculous and horrible things that we'd ever heard.
This era of content of, like, desperately trying to frame the left and progressives as the real racists died off. This video's from, like, years ago at this point. It's from 2021, and this was, like, one of his last uploads on the channel since he fell off. The whole, like, yes, the racist lefties who dare to do social analysis of things. Like, yeah, it really kind of died off.
Hence Captain Marvel, the film, being positioned between Infinity War and Endgame. And it didn't feel like the character had really earned her place among the events.
Is this literally him just, like, talking about Marvel shit? I don't care.
Being pushed on us very hard, very quickly, and to a certain degree, I think stealing some of the limelight from the long-running characters. So fans noticed this, and some of them didn't like that. So much so, I mean, there's a scene at the end where Captain Marvel jumps into the final fight with Thanos, and it just doesn't.
Well, where she fights Thanos isn't cringe. The scene where it's like all like the girl power scene in Endgame is really cringe. Like, it on its own, it maybe wouldn't be that cringe. It's that when I saw the movie in the theater, I immediately knew that I'd, like, have to deal with years of conservatives reeing about it. And that's all I could think about when I saw the scene. And so maybe that's why I cringed so much. But, like, the girl power scene was pretty cringe. In large part because it didn't really make sense. Oh, come on, Zan. Why do you complain about that? Well, because it is cringe. It was cringe. Wait, hold on. Guys, do you not think it was cringe? It was. They didn't know each other. It was awful. That's true. Oh my god, I forgot about that detail. They literally didn't even know each other. Oh my god. Here, I'm gonna do this guy's job better than him. Okay? I'm gonna do his job better than him. And I'm gonna critique the girl power scene from Endgame as the outro to this segment, okay? Captain Marvel has met pretty much none of the other characters on screen before. Blipped, never met her, I don't think. Never met her because she was blipped. Never met her because she was in space. Never met any of these characters, okay? Captain Marvel outpowers all of these characters by insane magnitudes, besides maybe Scarlet Witch. Maybe Scarlet Witch is the only one that, like, could possibly hold her own in a 1v1 against Captain Marvel. And that's if Scarlet Witch is really mad. Okay? That's if she's really mad. And she's never met any of them. She's way stronger than any of them. And they do this, like, moment-breaking scene where the music stops. Like, Peter Parker gives the gauntlet to Captain Marvel, and he's like, there's a lot of guys in your way. Are you sure you could get to the van that you got to throw it through? It's like, dude, she literally, like, destroyed a mothership to get here. Her intro was falling from the sky like a shooting star through a spaceship, like a bullet coming out the other side, and it just exploding. Okay? and just destroying the entire thing. Like, it just, like, holy shit. She's insanely powerful. So the scene's all about how they all magically appeared, all the women in all of the MCU, all of the female characters, both minor and primary, all converged on one point in the battlefield. Just by chance. To have this, like, epic scene in the middle of battle where it's like, no, it's not all 5. No. This is the start of the panning shot. This is just the one shot you can have on camera. It pans out to be, like, every female Marvel character that's, like, in the battle from there. It's like the girls get it done scene. It's like all the girls are there. It is not all 6 women. It's literally, like, probably, like, 12 or 13, I think, in the full panning shot. But it was really weird that they, like, because it doesn't make any sense that all the women would just happen to be there around Peter Parker in that scene. All the men are off fighting, I guess. Like, the music stops and they say, "We'll help," or whatever. I forget what the line was. "We'll cover her," I think it was. And then they did obviously the Boys parodied this and made fun of it with the girls get it done thing. The Boys is a very progressive show, and even they made fun of it because of how pandery it was. It was truly one of the few instances in which I think I can agree with the right on, like, blatant, cringe, immersion, moment-breaking pandering. That just really, yeah. Wait, when did the Boys parody it? Can I show this clip without getting copyrighted? The scene I'm talking about was only a little bit less cringe than what I'm about to show you. So for those who don't know, The Boys is a great show. It's fucking amazing. It's a parody. It's a satire of superheroes and a superhero universe, but it's also serious. Like, it isn't just a comedy show that can't take anything seriously. It's got an actual story. The characters are compelling, and it's actually really tense and really, it's good.
If we don't get that flash drive to the tower.
But how are you gonna get through all of them? Don't worry. Girls get it done.
And cut her.
This character's literally a Nazi. Like, not like, oh, she's a Nazi, but like she was actually in like, she knew Hitler. Like that kind of Nazi. Her name's Stormfront. Her superhero name is Stormfront. It's such a good show. You really need to watch this show if you're like a lefty politics person. Especially if you hate superheroes, you'll love this show too. She's a villain. Wait, why are you weirding me? The people who haven't seen the show are weirding me. That's hilarious. The people who haven't seen the show and don't know the context are weirding me. Anyway, I'm better at doing that guy's job than he is.